The materials you will need for a clay project are a clay board, which is a piece of wood covered in canvas. This is to absorb the water from the clay and to protect your work surface. You will also need a tool to cut the clay. This tool is a piece of fishing line tied to 2 wooden handles. You will also need a rolling pin, a wooden pottery rib, an assortment of different clay tools. These are some that can be found in the art room. A metal scraper, and other items not specifically for use with clay, such as a butter knife and a fork, and a paint scraper. This can be used for scraping the clay off your board. I also have a container of slip, which is basically watered down clay. We use this for joining pieces of clay together. I have some wooden stamps for creating patterns and texture on the clay. I have a cup of water to add moisture to the clay, if needed, and I have a spinning clay wheel to make working on rounded projects easier. I will begin this project by cutting a piece of clay to work with using my clay cutter. I will then wrap the remaining clay in a Ziploc bag to prevent it from drying out. The very first thing I must do is to wedge the clay. I am doing this in order to remove any air bubbles from the clay and to ensure that it is of a consistent body. This means that the moisture in the clay is distributed evenly throughout it. I will use the palms of my hands to push downwards on the clay. Then I will use my fingers to pick it up again. I will push it down, pick it up, push it down, and pick it up in an attempt to create a kind of circle or spiral with my motions. Watching this motions from the side, you can almost see a spiral pattern being created. If your clay seems to be too dry, you may add water by putting water onto your canvas board and then wedging the clay on top of the water you have added. Adding water directly to the clay can result in too much water. Adding water to clay is similar to adding lotion or sunscreen to your skin. Your skin is able to absorb some lotion or sunscreen, but once you've added too much, all you are left with is a slimy mess. It is best to add a little water at a time and add it indirectly to the board instead of adding it directly to the clay body. Watching the process of wedging from above, you can see that my hands are creating a monkey face on the clay. This section of the video has been sped up to twice the speed of real time, but as you can see, you must wedge the clay for a long time in order to ensure you've removed all the air bubbles and maintain an even consistency. I will now cut the clay into thinner slabs in order to check for air bubbles. This is an optional stage for your project, however, I wanted to show how important wedging is. As you can see on this particular slab, there is a small air bubble present. And there's also a small air bubble present in this one. So I will continue to wedge in order to attempt to remove all air bubbles. Air bubbles are always present in clay. However, we can lessen their effect by creating project plans that do not have super thick or solid areas of clay. When air bubbles are fired, the air trapped inside the clay is heated to high temperatures, and this causes the air to expand, breaking the clay that it was trapped inside of. This could mean that your project would break apart when fired, and this is why we wedge. Now I will cut some slab-shaped pieces of clay and wedge them in order to create a large slab to cut pieces for the slab box that I will be creating. This method of hand building is called slab construction. It involves making a flat pancake of clay about 1 centimeter thick and then cutting out a net for my box. After wedging, I will begin to pound the clay flatter with my fist in order to make it easier to use a rolling pin on it. As you can see, the edges of my slab will become thinner than the middle, and I may have to discard the edges if I go thinner than 1 centimeter. I can insert a pin tool into the middle and use my thumb as a marker in order to figure out how thick my slab is. And here's my completed slab. I have created some paper templates for my box. I will cut 1 square for the bottom and 4 for the sides. When I cut, I will use a ruler in order to ensure that my cuts are more accurate. This will make it easier when I go to join the slabs together. After I'm done my cutting, I will let these dry out so they are less floppy and flexible and easier to join together. Now I've let my slabs dry, and I will join the pieces together like so. Join 2 pieces of clay. I always think about the Spice Girls song, 2 become 1. You need to join so that there is no line or seam between the 2 pieces. You will use a fork or a pin tool to score the clay using a crosshatch pattern. You will do this on both of the pieces that you are attempting to join. Then you will add slip, again on both of the pieces that you are attempting to join. I will now press the 2 pieces together. Then, in order to strengthen my join, I will roll a thin coil of clay and use a tool in order to smooth the 2 pieces into 1 piece. You can see that there is a seam between my 2 pieces, so I will use a tool to smooth them together. And here's the process again from a different angle and a time lapse.
To become one. To become one.
Since I wanted to make this into a little planter, I'll add a hole for drainage on the bottom and then add 4 feet and a nose. Again, using the same method of scoring and slipping to join the pieces together. I will use a tool to create texture and smooth out any roughness or bumps using a paper towel with water. Here's the final product after it's had some time to dry. It's now what is known as greenware, dried clay before firing. Normally we bisque fire it in the kiln before glazing, but it's not necessary to follow this step. I'll now apply glaze to my piece. I am not glazing the bottom of my feet, but I will glaze the inside of the planter. If I mess up or want to change anything, I can use a sponge with water or paper towel with water in order to remove the glaze and then reapply it. And here is my glazed piece before firing. This is the kiln. It is located in the construction room. I have loaded my pieces into the kiln, ensuring that they are not touching, as glazed pieces cannot touch each other, or they'll stick together. And now we wait in order to see the final result. I'm back the next day after the firing process has finished. Here's the fired piece. I'm going to plant a spider plant in this planter. Well, that's it. I hope you learned something. And as always, thanks for watching.